The center started with, there was an egregious example of incident of racial profiling that happened on campus. I want to say now maybe 5 years ago. I think that was probably around 2018. And we had some students who really took the lead in kind of pushing for like a different approach to what was happening.
We discovered, or it was kind of revealed, that we had some pretty significant bias, if not outright racism in campus security. And it was really students rather than faculty or staff who sort of organized and said, we need to address this on behalf of students who are being wrongly targeted.
It's a message they're trying to get across.
We do not want a single student to live in fear.
To the administration at West Virginia Wesleyan College.
Just a kind of a movement.
Dozens of students, faculty, alumni, members of the ACLU of West Virginia, and Call to Action for Racial Equality Coalition stood outside the administration building at the campus to demand action on security issues. This after an alleged racially charged incident.
Basically, a couple students of color were verbally abused by a security guard for nearly an hour.
They say this was just one of multiple incidents. So about 2 weeks ago, they presented a list of demands to school administration.
What we started to see was that even if the harm was directed, was a product of racism, that actually, if the experience on campus with that office and probably in other spaces was better for Black students, it would be better for all students.
If you really do want to change the culture of a place where there's not inequities, suspicion around certain groups, then that work of building community might hedge against the kinds of disruptions we had when students were unfairly and illegally targeted.
Dr. Murphy became really interested in restorative justice as a concept, and we kind of went together, a group of a couple of us, faculty and a couple of students, to some trainings about restorative justice. And so we started hosting some circle conversations on campus that were more like, you know, what kind of community do you want to see? What are some things that you think would make like a better or stronger community? Since we had not had like a ton of success interfacing with like cabinet level administration, we thought, well, what if we work from the other direction and sort of build it from the campus community instead of, you know, like appealing to administration to make whatever changes.
The circle process is deceptively simple and also extremely powerful. And you wouldn't think it. And I often say it is so much more than putting your chairs in a circle formation because it's both scripted and improvisational. It's scripted in the sense that there's a form to it. It's not formal in the sense of stuffy or pretentious, but it's formal in the sense that there are forms that we adhere to, and there are things like it's a circle with nothing in the way of our connection with the person across from us or beside us.
So we always start with a welcome, just to kind of get everyone comfortable and acquainted with each other, and then we go over the introduction, talking about what restorative justice is in case it's a participant's first chance at a circle. Go over the expectations of the circle, making sure everyone understands the importance of speaking and hearing at the same time. Then we start with an introduction question just to kind of get everybody on the same page and everybody comfortable with talking, and then we use the crafted questions regarding whatever topic it is that we're discussing. And then we just go from there. And the participants really do end up leading the circle after that.
because the circle process has this form to it where you don't talk out of turn. You know, somebody across the circle said something that is making me crazy in the moment, but I don't get to respond until it comes around to me. You learn patience, and you learn that you don't have to react in the moment to something that you find really offensive. And we always say, some of us may find what we say offensive to the other, but we're going to still treat each other with respect and dignity.
And sometimes people will say things and they can be controversial, but they learn within the circle. They learn so much from people around them, and it's in a way that doesn't polarize people. There's very little situations where there's been two sides. The circle is always an ongoing thing. It's always a cycle rather than pitting two sides against one another.
There's a lot to be learned when you sit in a circle of people and you just listen to other people. You know, when I first got into the circle, of course, that ego portion of me wants to share my perspective. But after you sit and listen for a little while, you realize the value people get just from not holding it in and getting it out into the ether and having a group of people around them to hear them. They want to be heard. People just want to be heard. Sometimes the most valuable thing you can say is nothing at all. Just shut up and listen, you know?
People have different identities, different personalities, so you're able to hear from different perspectives. Just I feel people being heard, I feel and you really, because when you're in the circle, you really listen, not the anger, but the real what's inside, what people are actually feeling. It's been making my experience here at Wesleyan 1,000 times better, and I've been happier ever since I've been going.
For me personally, the circle was one of the first places that I'd ever found to be heard and seen as a student individually. So I think it's really important for everyone to get to have that experience at Wesleyan.
It's a place of safety. And one of the things we say when we're kind of describing the circle process, we want it to be a place and a space where people are seen and heard and feel safe. And I think they do. And it's just profound to be a part of that. The major project we're working on right now is this grant-funded project to help create a day center for vulnerable persons in Harrison County. And that came out of our work, which we were asked to do by the United Way, just to hold some circle conversations with these vulnerable people, some of them who struggle with houselessness, some who are newly housed but struggling with that reality.
It's so different than just feeding people and just not interacting with them, and they feel almost subhuman in some cases. You're just providing them with basic necessities just to do it, not because they're human beings that share humanity with you. And so the way I would watch Jessica and Deborah Dean and Heather Schneider interact with people there, I was like, oh, this is so comforting. This is so comforting to me, who was in this position, who came to things like this and received these resources, and often was treated subhuman, and seeing people interact as if they're almost a family structure.
Reinforcing or affirming a sense of dignity for people who are unsheltered or housing insecure, food insecure, just by seeing them as human beings in the circle, and developing relationships and valuing people and their knowledge.
They come into the kitchen with us now, You know, it used to be we would sort of come in and make a meal, and people would kind of show up when the meal was done, you know, and they would eat, and they would be grateful to eat, and we would sit out there in the tables with them. But now they show up early, and they come and they help us chop the vegetables. I hope they know how much we value them as partners in this work, so that now it's not so much, yeah, we're trying to fix a problem, but let's problem solve together with the people who are experiencing the breakdowns of access to resources.
We got some new people that have been coming regularly the last few weeks that weren't there when I first started coming, that don't really need to be there. There's no requirement for them to be there or nothing. They just come because they like to sit in a circle and they want to share, and it makes them feel better. And that's when that makes me feel good.
Just that there's people that want to talk about topics and we can relate, and we're not the only ones going through the same battles that are different from what the people are going through in the world.
It's a good thing, though. People get unload their troubles, and it's a good place to do that down there. If you got something really eating you kind of talk about it, and it helps you.
Everybody here is like different. Like, we all have a different story. We've all experienced different things. We've all have different family backgrounds. A lot of different medical histories are different. So just to be a part of the group and to see how everybody interlinks with everyone and encourages one another, that's one of my big things to keep coming back, because when you start seeing improvement in other people, you can see the change and see how excited they are that their life is going in a better direction, so it gives you hope.
It gave me an environment that I felt safe, and to be able to open up a little bit. I mean, not fully open up at first, but it was okay. I felt okay, you know what I mean, to actually say what was on my mind, what makes me happy, what makes me mad, and things like that. And then there wasn't no one there pressuring me or, ridiculing me or, judging me or whatever you want.
So that they can connect with one another, and ultimately the goal is that, we're building a community here that is accepting, where people can feel heard and seen and valued and cared for. That's such a key piece of housing stability that folks don't think about, and it's really hard to foster that. Just this idea of meaningful connection, right? And helping folks to feel rooted in a community, and that they have people who genuinely care about their well-being.
They're being treated like there's this moral failing, but actually there's this whole systemic barrier that's in their way. And I think we just learn so many important things about each other's day-to-day lives that helps us understand that, you're struggling in very similar ways that I'm struggling. And it also, I hope, then takes a step further in wanting to figure out how we help the people in our community have access to what they need to thrive.
Plenty of people here for help. When you do need somebody, you always have a phone number to call, staff or a friend that you meet, and it still goes right back to the staff, and it's helpful.
I think it's, people like to be heard, more or less. Just sit back, listen, and shut up. That's what you do until it's your turn to talk. And once you learn to have patience and everything, that way you're not trying to jump before somebody or whatever like that. You have to just sit back and just shut up and be heard.
First United Methodist Church, Michael Atkinson pulled together a group of service providers who are all providing services to people who are housing or food insecure. One week the conversation was about, well, what do we need? Bathrooms. The erasure of human dignity. If you can't go to the bathroom, that's probably one of the most dehumanizing positions to be in. But the bathrooms are locked, and there's all kinds of excuses about why they couldn't be unlocked. There is nowhere to go to the bathroom. So what does that communicate to people about whether you're part of our community or not?
so many of these friends of ours, they go to all the right places they're told to go to get a voucher for housing or to get food, and then they're told, no, you need to go over here, or that person's not in today, and it's just the indignity of that, right? So if we can we're just trying to create a space where they can, again, I'll just come back full circle maybe, where they can feel their worth. We want to be in solidarity with them and be partners finding what they need to be fully flourishing human beings.
Things that come from there are so hard to get. There are so many hurdles to access that most people who really truly need the help would rather go live in a tent by a river in the middle of winter than to access those social services. And that speaks more, I think, of our society than it does of the people living in the tents.
And it's so nice to watch the development, because that relationship building is also so key to helping people get out of some of the situations that they're in. Like, to develop a community is one of the strongest factors in preventing poverty. Of course, there's systemic issues that also play into that, but community is one of those strong things that we used to have in Appalachia, and that has slowly rescinded over time. So the circle just brings that all together, all in one place. And it's such a heartwarming feeling, and it's creating change not just because I'm doing service for the sake of doing service. I'm creating a community. I'm a part of a community.
So much about the work of people who are with good intentions trying to deal with vulnerable people who struggle with addiction and not having stable housing is to look for the solutions outside the people who are dealing with it. And I think these friends we're working with, and part of the research phase of this grant, we're asking them, tell us your experience, your story. And for some of those folks, they've never been asked that. They've never been asked, what's your story? I mean, we have this one guy who says, this is the highlight of my week, because I think he feels I'm seen here.
Well, what is the alternative? I mean, what is the alternative to those punitive systems, and what we hope to provide to students, both in the restorative justice class that we're teaching and in the circles that we are facilitating, and in students who are maybe going to do internships with us, is an expansion of what they can imagine, more possibilities.
I think it's a different way of thinking, in all honesty, and just kind of looking at it rather from a punishment stand of view, but not worrying as much about the punishment as maintaining a relationship between the harm and the person who received the harm, and helping them collaborate and restore that relationship, and moving forward to understand how to better support each other.
Whether it's the failure of a student who maybe cheated on an exam, or somebody in our Clarksburg circle of friends who can't seem to fight the demon of addiction. Sometimes our culture says, well, if they just would try a little harder, or if they would just have the same pull themselves up by the bootstraps that I had, right? And we don't realize that it's systems that oppress, and systems that don't give people access to the things they need from childhood on. And I wish we could do better at realizing that it's a systemic issue, and not so much, personal choice and personal, morality. And I think the restorative justice process understands that and addresses that, and has room for, again, having people take accountability for their harm, but having compassion for the situations that people found themselves in, to be in that, to commit that act that was harmful to another person.
you.